Susan Forward, emotional blackmail, when the people in your life use fear, obligation, and guilt to manipulate you. Emotional Blackmail by Susan Forward explores the hidden manipulations that often take place in close relationships. Through different examples and scenarios, Forward explains how emotional blackmail occurs when someone threatens to make you suffer if you don't give them what they want. By examining 6 key symptoms, she uncovers the disturbing cycle that manipulators use to maintain control over their victims. The summary delves into the role of fear, obligation, and guilt in emotional blackmail while offering strategies for recognizing and resisting these toxic influences, helping readers escape the damaging cycle and regain their own integrity and self-worth.
Unmasking emotional blackmail. Emotional blackmail, while not always as obvious as other types of blackmail, has infiltrated many close relationships. Rooted in threats and manipulation, it exploits the target's vulnerabilities and ultimately leads to psychological suffering. Oftentimes, it remains difficult to detect because individuals don't want to acknowledge the harsh reality that a loved one is manipulating them. Recognizing and addressing emotional blackmail is an essential step towards cultivating healthier relationships. Blackmail might evoke thoughts of leaked government secrets or organized crime, but there's a sneaky variant lurking in our personal lives: emotional blackmail. This manipulative tactic involves threats of consequence, such as ending a relationship, to force someone's hand. Since emotional blackmail occurs within close relationships, the blackmailer has an intimate knowledge of the victim's weaknesses, leveraging them to bend the person to their will. Throughout our lives, many of us have been victims of emotional blackmail without even realizing it. The struggle to recognize it stems from our natural inclination to overlook such manipulation from our loved ones. It is indeed a bitter pill to swallow. However, confronting and overcoming emotional blackmail is crucial to maintaining healthy, genuine relationships. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into detecting and remedying emotional blackmail in your life. Signs of emotional blackmail. Recognizing the cycle of emotional blackmail is essential in stopping its damaging effects on relationships. It starts with desire and resistance, followed by pressure, threats, compliance, and finally, dangerous repetition. By identifying these symptoms, one can regain control and establish healthy boundaries. In a relationship, an individual's desire may be met with resistance from their partner. When the desire is pushed without considering the other's perspective, it may lead to emotional consequences. Pressure and threats may be used to manipulate the other into giving in to their desires. Once the partner complies, the cycle is likely to repeat, causing lasting damage to the relationship. A realistic example is seen in Anna and Artie's story. Artie wished to move in with Anna, but she was not ready and wanted to maintain her individual space. Instead of respecting Anna's wishes, Artie pressured her to agree by making her question her love for him. This pressure escalated to emotional threats when Artie suggested he could leave her if they didn't move in together. The lack of empathy and mutual understanding in Artie's approach led to an unhealthy dynamic. When Anna finally complied to his demands, it only encouraged him to continue using guilt and manipulation in the future, creating a vicious cycle of emotional blackmail in their relationship. By learning to identify the signs of emotional blackmail, one can avoid falling victim to its destructive nature. Open communication and respecting boundaries ensure a healthy and stable connection with others. Unmasking emotional blackmail. Emotional blackmail thrives on the pillars of fear, obligation, and guilt, fog, which cloud our ability to objectively evaluate relationships. Fear, the primary fuel, often stems from the blackmailer's personal issues, such as a deep-rooted fear of abandonment. Manipulators wield obligation and guilt as weapons, unjustly imposing these feelings upon their victims. Recognizing these tactics enables individuals to address them in their relationships to avoid emotional blackmail. Emotional blackmail expertly obscures the true state of relationships using FOG, that is, fear, obligation, and guilt. Fear is the lifeblood of this manipulation technique. A blackmailer's actions often arise from their own fears, which they then weaponize against their partner. These fears frequently stem from unresolved childhood traumas, like a pervasive fear of abandonment. This can lead manipulators to control their loved ones once they sense they're not unconditionally adored. For instance, consider the story of Margaret and Mark, a married couple where Margaret was the primary breadwinner. Plagued by the fear of losing Margaret to someone more financially stable, Mark resorted to emotional blackmail. By reminiscing about her past loneliness and insinuating no one else would have her, Mark ensured she'd stay by his side. Though angry, Margaret refrained from pushing back out of fear that Mark would leave her. Manipulators also use obligation and guilt, hand in hand with fear, to control others. While these feelings can be legitimate responses to certain situations, obligation and guilt act as blackmail tools, leaving victims feeling lost and powerless. Consider a manipulative mother who leverages her children's sense of duty and guilt to make them take her on vacation. She asserts that her sacrifices during their upbringing entitle her to this trip, ensuring they feel obligated to comply. However, when these children are already devoted and attentive, her emotional blackmail crosses the line. Recognizing how fear, obligation, and guilt dominate a relationship and breach boundaries is vital in identifying emotional blackmail. Addressing the presence of these tactics in your own relationships enables you to overcome emotional manipulation and build healthier connections. Navigating conflict in relationships. In relationships, not every conflict involves emotional blackmail. The key is to determine if both partners truly seek resolution or if one is simply trying to win. Healthy conflict resolution involves open communication, considering each other's feelings, and taking responsibility for one's part in the tension. A story of Jack and Jill demonstrates this, as when Jack admits infidelity, Jill requests they work on their relationship through couples therapy and sets boundaries without holding his mistake against him. This approach can strengthen a relationship. Conversely, Ron and Rory's story shows emotional blackmail, as Rory uses Ron's infidelity to manipulate him for attention or material items, without addressing the actual issues or seeking reconciliation. Overcoming emotional blackmail. Emotional blackmail is a sneaky and damaging tactic that impacts those with specific vulnerabilities, such as a need for validation, low self-esteem, and fear of confrontation. It's essential to recognize and resist its vicious cycle, in which giving in only weakens one's resolve for future encounters. By understanding our responsibilities and taking steps to resist emotional blackmail, we can maintain our integrity and self-worth. We all have the potential to fall victim to emotional blackmail, especially if we possess certain traits that make us more susceptible. These traits include seeking validation from others, feeling uncomfortable in confrontational situations, having low self-esteem, and a tendency to prioritize others' needs above our own. Consider the story of Elliot and Eve, a couple of artists with different levels of success. Early in their relationship, Eve moved in with Elliot to save money. When she decided to pursue graphic design classes, Elliot disapproved, believing she was competing with him and leaving him behind. On the first day of Eve's class, Elliot's verbal attack triggered her fear of confrontation, causing her to doubt herself, cancel her plans, and remain at home. Unfortunately, emotional blackmail rarely stops after just one incident. Instead, it becomes a destructive cycle. When we yield to this tactic, our self-worth and integrity suffer, making it even more challenging to resist the next time. Eve found herself trapped in this cycle, overwhelmed by feelings of self-loathing and confusion. She worried about Elliot's well-being and her role in it, while Elliot continued to manipulate her into complying with his demands. While it's important to know that victims of emotional blackmail aren't to blame for what's happening, it's also crucial to understand that they are responsible for resisting the negative effects of this manipulation. In the face of emotional blackmail, we must learn to trust our abilities and take necessary steps to defend our integrity and self-esteem. Breaking free from emotional blackmail. Don't let emotional blackmail dictate your actions. Resist reacting instantly, buy yourself time to think, and maintain calmness. Remember that your priorities matter too. Detach from the situation and analyze both your partner's intentions and your emotional reactions, identifying red flags. Finally, connect their actions to your responses, establishing a plan to free yourself from manipulation. Breaking free from emotional blackmail starts with resisting the urge to react immediately. Blackmailers often create tension, making their victims feel pressured to comply. Instead, stand firm and grant yourself time to think. Phrases like, "I don't have an answer yet, let me think," and "I'm not ready to decide, let's discuss later," will come in handy. Even if they don't respond well, stay composed and repeat your statement. Don't forget that your priorities matter too. Their imposed timeline doesn't control you. Taking time to evaluate conflicts helps dismantle manipulative patterns in relationships. Next, detach from the situation to gain perspective. To better understand the conflict, ask yourself essential questions like, what does my partner want? How did they ask? What was their reaction when I disagreed? Reflect upon your emotional reactions for blind spots or self-deceptions. Feelings of being trapped or overwhelmed, or thoughts like, I'm responsible for their happiness and I'm selfish to resent their demands, are warning signs. Identify triggers behind these emotions, such as your partner's cold behavior, eye-rolling, crying, or yelling. Finally, make connections between their actions and your reactions by writing them down. Armed with this insight, you'll be equipped to break the cycle of emotional blackmail and reclaim control over your life. Overcoming emotional blackmail. To overcome emotional blackmail in a relationship, first identify and communicate your personal boundaries with clarity and assertiveness. Engage in calm, respectful conversations without attacking your partner, and express understanding of their feelings while standing firm in your disagreements. Recognize that changing habits and improving the relationship takes time and effort from both parties. The decision to continue or end the relationship will ultimately depend on how much change is achieved. Are you tired of being emotionally blackmailed in your relationship? Take a stand and break free by implementing the following steps. Begin by understanding your boundaries. Analyze your partner's actions and your reactions to recognize when they're taking things too far. Establishing clear boundaries helps you communicate to your partner what you're willing to accept and what you're not. Communication is the key. When discussing boundaries, always remain understanding, honest, and composed. Show empathy, acknowledging their feelings without backing down from your stance. Let them know you can agree to disagree without guilt-tripping or manipulation tactics taking control. Stay firm in your priorities and maintain open communication lines to prevent disagreements from escalating. Over time, better communication, newly established boundaries, and self-reflection can help mend your relationship. However, be prepared that it might be necessary to walk away. The decision to continue or end the relationship depends on how much work and commitment both parties are willing to put into reinventing their partnership.
The power dynamics in the relationships we form can often be difficult to navigate, and Susan Forward's emotional blackmail sheds light on the hidden dangers present in emotionally manipulative relationships. By understanding the 6 symptoms of emotional blackmail, recognizing the role of fear, obligation, and guilt, and identifying the difference between genuine conflict resolution and manipulative tactics, we can arm ourselves against manipulation and maintain healthier and more respectful relationships. Utilizing the strategies presented, including setting boundaries, improving communication, and ultimately being willing to walk away if necessary, can assist in breaking free from the cycle of emotional blackmail and lead to more fulfilling and balanced relationships.